Tsunamis are not ordinary waves, they are massive, unstoppable walls of water born from deep beneath the ocean floor. Caused by violent undersea earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or sudden landslides, they move silently at first until their power becomes unmistakable. One of the most devastating examples in modern history happened on the morning of December 26, 2004, while many were enjoying the peaceful day after Christmas. An undersea earthquake measuring 9.1 in magnitude struck off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. The energy released was equivalent to thousands of atomic bombs detonating all at once. The sea floor shook, shifted, and then sent a deadly force rippling outward through the Indian Ocean. What began as a distant tremor became a global disaster. Within minutes, waves moving faster than a passenger jet reached the shorelines of multiple countries. In places like Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, and even as far as the eastern coast of Africa, entire communities were caught off guard. The water didn't just rise, it surged. In some areas, the waves towered over 100 feet high, sweeping through cities, tearing buildings from their foundations and pulling thousands of people into the sea. Streets turned into rivers. Cars, trees, homes, nothing stood a chance. In total, more than 230,000 lives were lost in 14 countries. Families were shattered, histories were rewritten, and coastlines were forever changed. Survivors tell stories of impossible escapes, of children ripped from their parents' arms, and of entire villages reduced to silence. This tragic event didn't just shock the world, it changed it. Governments began developing new tsunami warning systems. Scientists improved their understanding of tectonic movements. Communities learned the signs: a sudden retreat of the ocean, animals fleeing inland, a strange quiet before the roar. And yet, the memory of what happened in 2004 still lingers. On July 9, 1958, a remote bay in Alaska became the site of the tallest tsunami wave ever recorded in human history. It didn't strike a city. It didn't cross oceans. But its size was so unimaginable, it rewrote what we thought a tsunami could be. This happened in Lituya Bay, a quiet inlet surrounded by steep cliffs and glaciers. That evening, a massive earthquake struck the region, measuring 7.8 on the Richter scale. But it wasn't the quake itself that caused the destruction, it was what the quake triggered. One of the mountains towering above the bay suddenly collapsed. Over 30 million cubic meters of rock and ice plunged into the narrow inlet below. The force of that impact was like an explosion. In an instant, an enormous wall of water shot upward and outward. The resulting wave reached an almost unthinkable height, 1,720 feet taller than the Empire State Building. Trees on the opposite side of the bay were snapped like twigs. Entire swaths of forest were stripped away, leaving a barren path carved into the mountainside that is still visible today. Amazingly, only a few people were in the bay at the time: fishermen and boaters. The people tragically lost their lives. But the survival of others, especially those who rode the wave in their boats and lived to tell the story, is something scientists still marvel at. Lituya Bay's megatsunami was a rare, localized phenomenon. It didn't travel across oceans, it didn't crash into distant cities. But it remains a terrifying example of what nature is capable of when multiple forces, earthquake, landslide, and water collide in a single moment. On March 11, 2011, the world witnessed nature's fury unfold live on screen. It began with a violent 9.1 magnitude earthquake off the northeastern coast of Japan, one of the most powerful ever recorded. The earth shook for over 6 minutes, triggering alarms across the nation, but the real terror hadn't arrived yet. Far out at sea, the ocean floor suddenly lifted. That movement displaced an unimaginable volume of water, sending a tsunami surging toward the coastline. In less than 30 minutes, waves more than 40 meters high, that's over 130 feet, slammed into the shores of Tohoku. Entire towns vanished in minutes. The water didn't just hit and retreat, it pushed inland with relentless force, dragging homes, vehicles, and lives with it. Video footage from the event shows a horrifying sight: buildings crumbling like paper, boats crashing through streets, and entire communities submerged beneath black, debris-filled water. One of the most iconic and tragic images was the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. As the tsunami flooded the facility, the cooling systems failed. Explosions followed, and soon the world faced not only a natural disaster but a nuclear emergency. Radiation leaked into the air, the sea, and the soil. More than 18,000 lives were lost, hundreds of thousands were displaced. And even today, some areas remain uninhabitable due to radiation contamination. What made this tsunami so impactful wasn't just its size, it was the scale of devastation in such a highly prepared and developed country. Japan had early warning systems, seawalls, evacuation plans. But the force of nature overwhelmed even the most advanced defenses. This event changed global disaster planning. Countries around the world began reassessing their risk, their infrastructure, and their response systems. But beyond policy and engineering, the world also watched in awe the resilience of the Japanese people. Despite unbearable loss, communities came together, cleaned up, rebuilt, and pressed forward, a powerful reminder that the human spirit is stronger than even the largest wave. It was the day after Christmas, December 26, 2004. A day of joy, rest, and celebration for millions across the world. But beneath the Indian Ocean, something catastrophic stirred. A 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, the third largest quake ever recorded. It ruptured a fault line over 1,300 kilometers long, that's nearly the length of the entire U.S. West Coast. The seabed rose violently, billions of tons of seawater were displaced in seconds, sending shockwaves through the ocean. What followed was a series of tsunamis, radiating outward like ripples from a stone, only these ripples moved at the speed of a jetliner. Within 15 to 20 minutes, waves up to 30 meters high, nearly 100 feet, obliterated coastal towns in Indonesia, but the water didn't stop there. Within 2 hours, the waves reached the shores of Thailand, Sri Lanka, and India. By the 8th hour, they struck as far as Somalia on Africa's eastern coast, over 4,500 kilometers away. The destruction was unspeakable. Entire families washed away. Tourists filming their vacations caught their last moments on camera. In places like Phuket, Banda Aceh, and Chennai, people had almost no warning. In total, over 230,000 people were killed across 14 countries. It was one of the deadliest disasters in human history, but from the tragedy came a global awakening. There was no early warning system in the Indian Ocean at the time. The world realized the gap and responded. Nations cooperated to build a robust tsunami alert network, investing in education, emergency drills, and technology to prevent such mass-scale loss in the future. What remains today are haunting memories, mass graves, empty coastlines, and scarred survivors. But also stories of miraculous escapes, of children saved by strangers, of communities rebuilt with global help. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was a devastating reminder that nature doesn't discriminate. But it also showed us what humanity is capable of when we choose to act together.